Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
All right. So, good morning or good afternoon. Um, Welcome to the virtual integrity reports presentation. Um, Integrity reports, it sounds boring, but I will try to make this fun. After all, it's today's Veterans Day. I mean, a lot of people are probably out, and we are the lucky ones or that are still or working today. So, um, my name is Jonel Tenorio, coming to you live from my living room here in sunny Southern California. I live close enough to Disneyland Park in Anaheim to hear the fireworks at night. And I know it's 9:30 p.m. because that's the time they start. So, but it's been quite a while. I mean, since March that we don't get to go to the park. We're annual pass holders, and we can't wait to go back in. So today's objective. Yeah, I mean, we can sit here all day and talk about integrity reports, but I came up with three general goals to fit in this webcast session. The first objective is of course, functional. I mean, the importance and discussion of key general accounting integrity reports, um, and then technical. Uh, I'm going to try to define important financial tables and key fields used by the integrity reports. And then at the end, um, I'll show some timing, I mean, automation, I mean, troubleshooting tricks, tips, stuff that I've gone through, and then some suggestions to resolve and prevent integrity issues. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? So, I mean, I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with this. So, relax, okay? It's just the integrity reports. It's not root canal or getting married. It's just the integrity reports. And as you can see, I like a movie so much. And look at this. Okay, so it's just the integrity reports, and I want to show you how to go back to the future of financial statement accuracy. So, I mean, remember this. Um, for those of you who have gone through a lot of upgrades and started with the green screen, these are, I mean, this is like the year is 2020, right? It's exciting to talk about new JDE application modules, the simply, the E1 orchestrator, or hot topics like the cloud, UDO, UX1. But I thought it is really important to make us all realize one of the goals for any JD Edwards release or ERP application, regardless of platform and technology being used, is to report complete and accurate financial statements. All right. So, I mean, I have seen JDE evolve from a black and green screen like what you're seeing right now. And one of the reasons why I'm wearing reading glasses is probably because, you know, this green screen basically messed up my eyes. So, but it messed it up in a good way. So, and, as you know, JDE has gotten cool. I mean, terminal servers, Citrix, fat clients, all these Jazz servers and web interface. Actually, by 2000, One World XE was released, giving JDE a full GUI product. They they still had that green screen for coexistence. Now, I mean, after delaying the upgrade for 1 year and then refusing all requests by the marketing team at JD Edwards, in the fall of 2000, they released B7333, as you know, right? And then they rebranded it and called it One World XE. And actually, that's one of the most stable until 9.2, right? So, but I said seriously, JDE has gotten really cool. Like, now we have mobility, Internet of Things, or Enterprise One Orchestrator, UX1, UDOs, watch lists, citizen developers. I mean, you name it. JDE is tinkering with it. All we have to do is to be on the latest tools release, and adapt maybe a 64-bit mentality, and and still getting cooler, right? I mean, continuous delivery, virtual assistants. I mean, cloud. Like we conduct an E1 orchestrator workshop every month. If you want to, and it's free. Just reach out to Brooke if you want to save us, a seat for you. Okay, so. Um, so look at this slide, JD through the years. Is a snapshot of what happened to JD the past at least 20, 25 years. And my point here is it's definitely not Excel. Okay, so and I picked this slide from one of my virtual workshops. The progression of JD Edwards from evolving from a traditional ERP where we keep our system of records into an autonomous ERP is well on its way. I mean, Oracle, I'm sure you've been noticing, has been pumping in a lot of resources on, especially on the E1 orchestrator and UX1, so to achieve that goal, because their goal is to extend the application or the system without really coding. There was actually an Oracle partner webinar that I actually attended where they're trying to push um, shops that are customizing a lot of their JD Edwards applications to use UX1 or use E1 Orchestrator to extend it. I mean, if you do that, you don't really need to worry about upgrading your code whenever you're taking in a new release, or upgrading your system from a certain platform application version into the latest one, right? So that's the goal right now. The goal is to extend JD Edwards without having to do a lot of coding. So anyway, it's all cool and stuff, right? But at the end of the day, or the fiscal calendar year, to put the timing more accurately, our debits has to equal our credits, and balance sheet numbers has to be balanced. I mean, if you've been following, or if you've seen I mean, I'm sure you do, but if in the Back to the Future series, the main characters, they went back and forth and back again with one main component, right? Or one main device. It's the Delorean. And I'm symbolizing the integrity reports with the Delorean because it's the constant. It can be high tech, low tech, advanced tech, especially for JDE, regardless of tools release. And at the end of the day, we run the integrity reports to get our balances right. So, what made me do this topic? I mean, I remember I had to chase a $1.2 million variance, uh, for a company that I worked for 5 years ago. And you know we were able to get that, fixed it, corrected it after 2 months. But all the stuff that I've gone through, I kind of documented it, and then I went above and beyond to basically go into like what are the files used, and stuff like that, and you're going to see it here. I mean, from green screen to the current user and application layer features, JDE, of course, is still a financial software. I mean, we can talk about E1 Orchestrator. I mean, we can talk about UX1. I mean, but JDE is still a financial software. And we'll always go back and rely on the integrities to balance the books and provide accurate financial statements. So I was stumbling through my slides last night, and I said, you know what? I think it's cool to kind of like show you some notable quotes. Like, data integrity is the key to good record keeping. I mean, this is a cool one. Being a data integrity specialist is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire, you're on fire, everything is on fire, and you still need to get where you are going. It's like happening every quarter, right? Or every month. And then integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's watching, from SpongeBob, of course. And then Charlie Sheen said something. He just wanted to win, right? Now, for, you know, because, I mean, they only remember, I mean, when something is wrong, right? When you get a call from your users or the people that you support, when of course something is not working right. But the occasional or the periodic malfunctions in JD Edwards will be our focus today. All right. Um, Before we dive into the mission critical financial integrities, um, let me tell you that most JDE modules have some sort of integrity reports. And, they are still, I mean, maybe they're still solid tools to keep accounts balances in check. I mean, we're not going to go through all of this. Um, our webcast today will actually revolve around the financial integrity reports, which is, for me, I believe is the key and the most critical one to be, especially at the end of a fiscal period, at the end of every quarter, and of course at the end of every year. So just like the movies, I labeled this slide the Great Trilogy because the financial statements accuracy, I mean, not, of course, not discounting or ignoring the other modules like fixed assets, job costing, etc. They rely heavily in integrities of these three main JDE financial modules. And also, just like the DeLorean in the movie Back to the Future, these modules need a reliable component to get JDE shops where they need to go. In this presentation, we'll focus on the integrity reports for these financial modules, right? And we will start with the keys, right? I'll show you, I mean, to help us understand and be on the same page with JD Edwards on integrity reports, I will break it down to the key batch jobs and tables for these financial modules. Please note that these keys are important factors to lead us to other less frequently used batch jobs or reports. Okay, there are, I mean, Oracle has been uh, delivering integrity reports since its inception, since World, right? But not all of them are integrity reports that we use and we run frequently. Some of it are like for conversion, some of it are for upgrades. And in here, I try to list everything that is related to these three modules. I mean, the GL, the AR, and the AP modules. Um, and, we'll show some reports that are actually, update reports. I will try to highlight them as well. And then, but we'll start with the GL batch integrities. Okay, there are two sets of GL batch integrities. These ones are the 00s, okay? The 00s are the UBEs that of course starts with the R and the 00, right? And then within those 00 UBEs, these are the tables. I mean, the first module in the trilogy is of course the GL integrities, right? I classified this GL integrities in two sets. This is the first set, the 00s, and then of course the 09 that you're going to see in a while. Based on the JDE system codes they use. So here's a list of tables that feeds the 00 GL integrity reports. Up here, you'll notice that the batch control records, or the 0011, is kind of like attached to the hip with the account ledger, okay? And that's I guess the main control for the GL integrity 00s, right? And then because it's the 00, it relates to the AR tables, and also it goes and link to the AP tables as well. So here are the 00 batch jobs, okay? This should perfectly illustrate why I call this GL integrity set as 00s. The report starts, as I mentioned, the report starts with an R and then a 00, okay? So our 007011 and 7032, are the most common batch jobs. And then they are from the foundation, or the 00, I call it batch jobs. Um, the R007011, um, uh, it's called the unposted batches report. What it does is it prints a list of all unposted, I mean, pending, approved, and then error as well, unposted batches in your system. You should print this report on a weekly basis, and I'll show you more on the timing later. But you should print this on a weekly basis or prior to period end procedures. So before you end your monthly, close, or you do your monthly close, you should run this thing. And I will remind you on the timing again later. You can use it. You can also use this report, as a reminder to post batches that have an approved status, right? So if the status is approved, this report is a reminder that, hey, there's something that you need to post, especially if you're the manager that that review and post the batches for your staff or for your team. And then this report also is useful to review and approve batches that are still pending. You'll see it because it will print it, and then you can also use this report to research batches that are in error, because it's going to show in the report. So the R007011, I mean, it prints batch control information, and it's coming from the F0011, which is like this table up here, right? So if, let's say, you want to query this particular table, F0011, you will see something like the R007011. Of course, they presented it nicely, right? Now, if the batch header does not exist for a batch or of unposted transaction, the batch does not appear on this report. Okay, again, if you don't have any batch header in your F0011, you will not see it on the R007011 report. Okay, now the R007032, what it does, it helps locate batches in which the net amount of debits and credits for the F0911 transaction. Okay, F0911, the account ledger. If the debits and the credits does not equal to 0, okay, that's the purpose of this 007032. Okay, it reviews the net amount of the 911, the general ledger transaction in each batch. Okay, it goes through the 911, it sifts through the 911, and look at the transaction, the GL transaction for each batch. Okay, that's why in this particular slide here, it's in one box together with the F0011. Okay, so if the net amount is not 0, it will calculate the difference or the net difference and prints the batch details on the report. So that's a very useful integrity report that I use, that I would always put on the scheduler. And again, I'll show you where to put this thing later. Now, if the amounts net to 0, again, if debits equal credit, okay, of course the batch is in balance, and the report will not pick it up. Therefore, it won't print. So again, the last two at the bottom, 7021, 7031, these are important but not as frequently used. And the R00731, just keep in mind, this is an update report. You can run this thing to update exception report, and then the batches with variance. Now, I believe what it does is it touches the 0011. Okay, Now, let's take a look at the 09s. Again, we are still, okay, we are still in the GL batch integrities, okay? And then here are the key F09 tables used in GL batch integrities for this R09 UBEs. And, the usual suspects are here, which is like the F0911, the F0901, of course, and the 902, which is your account balances, supported by the business unit master, the batch control table, and the table from one of my other favorite JD topic, the AAI. Okay, so F0012, the AAI master is there. Okay, um, I once presented a session on financial AAIs together with the other important JD Foundation topics. But the AIs is something that I mean, people think that it's it's only when you're doing journal entries or transactions for that relates to picking up the correct account. But it's also key in integrities or integrity reports. Okay, so here are the GL batch integrities for the 09s. Okay, this is the second set of GL batch integrities for the 09s. So the company by batch out of balance, which is like the R09706, what it does is it reviews only a posted transaction in the F0911 table. Okay, that's why the F0911 table is here. So what this report does, it totals all posted transactions in the F0911 table by batch, and then it compares each batch total to the batch header, the record total in the F011 of the F0011 table, which is uh, the batch header table. So again, it's the R09706, okay? It compares the totals of the 911 and the batch header table 0011, okay? And it prints all batches that are out of balance and also includes, it includes the amount by which the batch is out of balance. The company numbers, of course, are there, and then and they have out of balance batches and the portion of the total discrepancy, the variance, I mean, is showed on the report as well. The R09705, okay, what it does, it helps you locate out of balance conditions by identifying variances between the 902 and the 911. Okay, so if you're looking at integrities for between the 902 and the 911, the R09705 is your guy. Okay, and the company's imbalance report R09701, okay, what it does is it uses the information from the 902 and to determine whether a company is in balance. So this, what it does, it looks at the 902 totals per company. I mean, this report identifies adjustments that are posted to a prior year and not included in the balance forward amounts for an account. So the 7001, it basically goes in and around the 902. Okay, and I guess that's my point on this one. It prints amounts that are posted out of balance in the future period or year. So if you're familiar with the 902, right, records have like a fiscal year, your period, and all your buckets. So for instance, if the company, let's say company 001 has a current period of December to 2019, it prints all out of balance entries from January 2020 under the PACO column. Okay, and it also prints missing intercompany settlements if you have the intercompany feature turned on in your shop. If the company is deleted after journal entries, I mean, they also are shown out there, but it has to be posted. Okay. Now, the other one, the R097011, um, what it does is it compares the balances among the company's various intercompany settlements. So again, if the intercompany feature is turned on, this is the integrity report that uh, would address variances for your GL batch integrities. Now, what it does is actually looks at the AAI setup. That's why we listed the F0012 in the important tables for GL batch integrities. And what it does is it compares intercompany account balances. So intercompany integrities, R097011 is your guy, okay? And then um, you can look at the other ones, like the R097021, 41, and 31. They are business units versus account balances, integrities, and then, but all of this integrity reports, they are update UBEs. Just keep in mind, okay? You can run it in proof mode just to check, but be careful when you're running these three reports, okay, for the 09 integrity reports, okay? So that takes care of the GL batch integrities, okay? Let's take a look at the AR integrities, okay? Second trilogy, or the second of the trilogy, right? Other than the account balances table, um, the AR integrity reports have concentrated the process within the standard customer receipts and invoices table. As you can see, um, the for AR integrities, um, the relationship is mostly within the F03B tables. But of course, it checks the balances or the totals in the 902 table, okay? So these are the four key tables for AR integrities. Now, what are the key key batch jobs for AR integrities? The R03B701 and 707 are the most common integrity reports for AR. And but I listed the other ones down below, which is mostly dealing with conversions. Okay, so the R03B701, what it does is it compares the batch amount of the customer ledger file, which is the F03B11, with the batch amount of the corresponding account ledger record. Okay, it basically it adds all gross amount that are posted to the customer that are posted to the customer ledger for each batch, and accounts for variations based on the tax types and tax amounts. Okay, and then also what it does, it accumulates all pay items that are posted to the 911 for each batch. And then it compares the customer ledger amount and gets the net difference to make sure that that it's zero. Otherwise, it prints out, or it writes it down in the report. And then the other AR integrity report that I thought was important for this discussion is the R03B707. The title itself says it's the account balance by account ID. So it is used to ensure that the total amount of open AR invoices in the F03B11 table is equal to the balance in the account balance table, which is the 902 for the AR for the associated AR offset accounts. So this report, what it does is it compares posted amounts in the AR transaction tables to the amounts posted in the corresponding 902 table. So the AR transaction tables that are used by this UBE is actually the 3B11, the 3B112, 3B13, and the 3B14. Essentially, all the R03B707 uses all this table up in this list. Yeah, and it's also utilizing several AAI instructions, AAI records to determine the open balances for the invoices where it's sourced through the GL offset. Okay. Um, Also, the program considers the AR offset account, the AAI item RC, if you're familiar with it, AAI item RA, RN, and RK. And of course, the RB for, and then other, items, AAI items are the RFC and the RFD, if you're familiar with it. I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of those AAI line types and items. But the 707, I guess my point is that it does go through the main AR tables and matches the balances or the totals within the 902. So that's a good utility integrity report if you want to see what's shaking within your AR receipts and the 902 account ledger table and transactions. So the R89s that you're seeing below, I believe these UBEs are all update reports. And again, it's mostly dealing with conversions, not widely used. You don't want to put this in a scheduler because you maybe want you run this periodically or whenever you're doing an upgrade. So I just put it out there so that you know that it's related to the 03B11, the 911, and it compares those balances and it prints reports based on the variances between those tables. Okay. So hang on, why is it not moving? Okay, there we go. Now we go to AP integrities. This will be the third financial integrities that we're going to talk today. So unlike the accounts receivable integrity reports, the AP integrities or integrity reports, they use information from the account ledger, all right, and the account balances table. Notice, you can notice that the AP ledger header table is missing in this slide. Where's the F0401? It's not here. Okay. Because when these reports run, they don't really look at the 01, the F0401. And this integrity reports also goes to the detailed AP ledger and the document, the voucher match tables. And here are the reports. Okay, so the one that I used that is most commonly used is the R04701. So this report, what it does, it verifies the gross amount of each batch in the F0411, the gross amount balances, and it compares it with the amounts in the corresponding batch, okay, the batch number within the F0911. So the 701, if you're taking notes, what it does, it's F0411 versus F0911, okay? So, and this report also checks each pay item for an invalid pay status. So, after the AP to GL integrity report by batch 701, it points out the problematic batches, right? Now, the R09301 is related to this. So you can run this in conjunction with the R09301 that I've shown in the previous slide, okay? And the other key or important AP integrity reports that I often use or most widely use is the 712. Uh, you know, the R04712 in proof mode, it compares the payment amount in the F0414, which is the document, the AP matching document table. It compares it with the F0911 for each batch. Okay, so if you're taking notes again, the F04712, okay, it's F0414 versus F0911. And then the batch is printed on the report if there are differences between the payment of the F0414 and the F0911. So you'll see that if there is a variance between those two tables, you'll see them uh, in the R04712 output, okay? And then the other one, the R04702A, I mean, this report is used to verify each batch of payment amounts within the F0414. And it checks if it's in balance with the batch that exists or the amount that exists in the batch for the F0911. And it's an extension of the R04712. And you can run it in conjunction with that integrity report as well. And you basically can um, extract a lot of information between the 4712 and the 4702A. Now, the okay, the R04711 that you're seeing below and the 13, they are all update UBEs. Okay, they're important. Okay, and just keep in mind when you're running it, make sure that you. I think you can trigger it using proof mode first to see what's going to be updated before you run it in final mode. Okay, and then the other one, the R04701A, um, it's a AP to GL by offset account. So it looks at the offset transaction and provide you with an extract of the batches that are out of balance. Now, I believe that takes care of the trilogy, which is the GL um, integrities, the AR integrities, and this last batch job for AP integrities takes basically rounds up the trilogy for the financial integrity reports. So let's go through. I'm checking the time. Let's go through some automation and setup and timing. Okay. So please note these are just suggestions. Okay. I mean, you can run reports as often as you want, or even run it manually as you wish. Okay. And this will depend on the size of your business. So, but these two are fine to run daily, right? I mean, the R007011 and R007021. I mean, you can run this thing daily, and again, take a look at the table. If let's say you have your 911, your 902 had actually ballooned to like millions, like hundreds of millions of records. Be careful, because if you run this thing daily, it may, you probably will come to the office in the morning and you'll see this thing running, and you don't want that, you know. So, it depends on the size of the table and the importance of having this report to be reviewed by your team. Okay, so and I also suggest that integrity reports, okay, has to be run during off hours. So if let's say you're done by 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, integrity reports should run probably until after like 8 or 9 or something, maybe later than that if you have a you know other batch jobs that are actually processing your orders. So here's okay. So here's a weekly suggestion. So weekly or less is what I'm saying here. I mean, because unless your full-time job is to look at integrity reports, you should run this thing weekly. Because if you put this in the daily integrity report run, I mean, who will review this, right? I mean, so uh, if if let's say weekly is too much, too frequent, change it to every twice a month or something. But my point here is, you know, you don't want to be stuck with reviewing integrity reports every day or every week, you know. So, use your company um, requirements or need to be able to determine when you run your weekly integrities. And this this is the list of integrities that I actually discussed today. So you don't need to run everything in this list, okay? Especially if there are no conversion, so you can eliminate some of the UBEs here or the batch jobs here. So I just put them in this list to make sure that we know where to categorize them, which is like the weekly category, right? And please note that it is important to run these reports when no one is using the system, preferably after hours, to avoid locks, okay? Because some of this will actually lock your system or your main table, and you don't want your team, while your team is posting transactions, to be bogged down by integrity reports. So this, again, integrity reports, they have to run after, during off hours or when no one is actually actively using the system. Okay. So troubleshooting tips. Okay. Um, okay. UBE versions, as you know, right? UBE versions can get corrupted. And creating a new version is common to make sure integrity outputs are accurate. So if, let's say, you have been running this particular integrity report for years, and then suddenly it does not look right, or the report somehow does not look right. Perhaps the version got corrupted. All right. So it's common, as I mentioned, it's common to it's common to create a new one, so to make sure that the integrity output are accurate. So these are basic common sense tips. All right. There's no need to get fancy. All right. When you're troubleshooting, keep in mind, you mean, when you're doing this, when you're troubleshooting, you are wearing a different hat in your company. Let's say your job is, you're the AP, you're the AP clerk, right? I mean, you don't look at posting errors, right? Unless you need to. So you're basically, it's like wearing a janitor hat right now, because you're looking at cleanup stuff or cleanup items. So like you have to find unposted batches. You have to go through and sift through some reports. And if you're familiar with, going through your J.D. Edwards Work Center, go there. There's a lot of information there that you can use to troubleshoot your integrity issues. And then, it's most very important. You gotta use, or you have to work with your users, because there are, they are the main source of transactions that were actually added or updated within the system or in the system. They know what they keyed in yesterday, or at least they have a record of what happened last week. So if something is not right, talk to them and say, hey, you know what, I'm having this variance. What did you do? So it's important to talk and work with the users. And of course, if, let's say, you exhausted all this information, all these sources of information, you can always request logs to see whether you can decipher something from there. And I normally, this will be the job of a semi-technical business analyst, uh, or like a developer. So here's the general resolution, recovery, suggestion. Here's a list of on how to recover or fix integrity issues. Not everything. I mean, not everything's here, and it's also in no particular order, right? And again, this will vary based on the type and size of your business. And this is not a complete list. You just try to use this guide to resolve your issues. Um, s- you know, um, if you have batch problems, or if you have like 902 or F0011 issues, I mean, of course, you need to add new batch header to correct that. Reset flags to repost out of balance, right? I'm sure if you are familiar with the error flags, error codes within your batch header application, right? And then the most common one is creating the balancing entries or offset entries. I mean, um, it happened. I think it happened several times when I was dealing with a large amount of accruals. So um, we can't really uh, go down to the details of what happened, but they said that they know where the numbers are. They know where the variances are. So an offsetting entry was actually the fix, so that we can have like we can close the period. And then you know make sure you do a controlled run when you're doing this, or when you're uh, try to resolve issues. And then the key here is, after executing all this suggestions or recovery suggestions, is you need to rerun the integrity reports after you try to fix the issues that you thought you you know were addressed by the fix, right? Rerunning the integrity reports after corrections to verify is necessary to make sure that you don't have, or you have a clean list. Okay, so after all these suggestions, make sure you rerun the integrity report to to print out or to verify whether it's good or not. All right, so I think we're almost there. Now, why is SQL not in the list? Because SQL or database correction should be the last option. You should have a good understanding of the JDE table and key relationships, in order for you to to SQL stuff out, or update the data behind the scenes. So that's the last option. I don't recommend you do that, but that's something that you can actually use in case it's like worst case scenario. Now let's go through the best practices to prevent, avoid integrity issues. Here's a really cool list of what you can do so that you can prevent issues. You need to secure your constants, right? Secure the batch header. I mean, make sure no one can update or do any unnecessary posting. And then related to that, set up batch approval security. I think it's the P00241. And then you know sometimes there's a need to set the required accounts to machine generated only, or something. And then try limiting transaction size per batch. Okay, that's key, so that it's easier to troubleshoot later. uh, Another key thing is limit the AAI access. One company, I mean, in one company that I work for, only one person can change the AAI, which is the controller. So and you don't want to expose that to everybody. And then again, post all transactions before making AAI changes. Here's more. So post all batches before running integrities. Verify posted transactions are there. Determine which integrity reports to multi-thread. If you're running it on a schedule, and and run integrities. I've been telling you this after business hours, meaning off hours. Okay. So, and use the scheduler system or use the scheduler to run integrity reports so you don't have to trigger it manually. And the key here is that try to you know to have a central team that reviews and look at your integrity issues. I mean, the AP or the AR managers, they are the ideal contact person to do the reporting, the research, and the correction of integrity issues. Okay, and if in case you need to run SQL scripts, test them in dev or PY before executing them in production. Okay, so those are the key, some of the I guess the key list in preventing or avoiding or minimizing integrity issues. So we're almost to the hour, but here's a recap. All right, so I showed you the importance and some key discussions on the general accounting integrity reports, and then showed you the tables of the financial tables used by the batch integrity reports, and the last couple of slides were the timing, the automation, how to troubleshoot, and suggestions to resolve and prevent integrity issues. So I'm actually, we have like several minutes. So if you have questions, hopefully none. So, so you can relax.
Thank you so much, Janelle. We do have one question here, and I just wanted to hopefully try and get it answered before we end our webcast. Are you okay if I read it?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So the question is, we have a problem with our integrity reports not running correctly unless the data selection is run wide open in terms of time frame. Example, must run day 1 to current day instead of just the current month. Any ideas why?
Corrupted version. That, remember, it looks like if you can copy that version and then create a new one and then test it to see whether it will pick up the data selection that you want. So I've seen that, and depending on your the platform you're using, maybe you can clear your SQL SQL objects. You for that issue, you may want to take a look at the version first, because most often it's that. So but reach out to us. I believe I put my email in the beginning of this slide, and well if you can send more info on how often it happens, or perhaps after you change or add the version, if it's still happening, let us know.
Awesome. And then another question says, what generally causes integrity issues?
Well, a variety of things. For example, unposted batches, right? And then I think if I go back to my slides, right? So here's posting errors, and what else? Records that were deleted, and then, sometimes the, a closed period has, and then you still try to enter transactions for that period. Like there's all kinds of stuff, but integrity issues are, it's common, things fail. So, and that's the reason why JD has actually included them in their list of reports. Are we done? Sorry.
We have a couple more. If you have time, I'll read them off to you.
Sure. Go for it. Hang on.
A follow-up question to that is, what about connectivity issues? I know.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Let's say, for example, you're processing, let's say you're posting, right? And then your connection dropped, right? or you're keying in transactions and your connection dropped. You have orphaned records right there. So and you know, without knowing it, and you know, you rekeyed it because you thought it wasn't saved, so it's there. So when you run your integrity reports, you will see that you know, you will find an unposted transaction, right? So yeah, that's a good point. And so there are instances, and this is not related to just integrities. There are instances where a company should actually set aside a some time to just post, so that you know, they know exactly you know, what will cause the issue in case they encounter integrities later. So and when you have let's say if you have drop connections, you should also take a look at your versions, report versions, whether it got corrupted or not. So that's a good point.
Okay, and then one more question is why, or actually, I'm sorry, two more. We don't run integrity reports. Is it a good idea to start running them from the inception date?
Yes. Well, it depends on when is your inception date, right? Let's say if your inception date was since One World XE, that's a long way to catch up, right? So yes, it is actually it is pretty much advisable, and or you know, it's best practice to run it. If you haven't really started it, and if you need help, let us know, because um, there should be a way to run it without having to go back through all your old transactions. And also, I think you know, if you're dealing with large amounts of data, you should purge first and get rid of old, you know, obsolete transactions before running integrity reports. But again, the answer is yes, you should start running it.
Okay. And then another said Kevin said, nice presentation, and but why didn't we discuss RO99102?
RO99102. Hang on, where is that? Let me make a note. R09. Sorry, say that again, bro.
Yep, R09. R099102.
102. R099102. I guess that is one of the GL. Is that? I have to get back to you on that one. I have that in my list, but I'm not sure why I did not put it in the GL batch integrity. So, Kevin, right? Send your email to us, and I'll get back to you on this. This is a good one. I have it on my list, but I did not put it in my trilogy.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know we're a little bit over the time. I just wanted to see if we get the questions answered, and we're all set. So Janelle, I just want to thank you so much for your presentation today, and everybody for attending. We will be sending out if you can complete the survey after the webcast, we will be sending out, we'll be confirming who has won the $25 Amazon gift card, and anybody that attended the entire webcast is eligible. So thank you again, Janelle, and everybody.
You're welcome. Thanks for helping, Brooke. And again, reach out to us. This is, you know, we just scratched the surface, guys. I mean, but now, I mean, at least now you know how important this thing is. We can talk about E1 Orchestrator, UDO, UX1, and all that cool stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, you need your debits and your credits to be balanced, right? So.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we hope that you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.